Today we will be discussing the differences between ASAP blueprint phase versus the activate explore phase. Now let's get into the details. Now, what is a blueprint or fit gap analysis? First, let us understand that. Now, you have this customer who has got ready to implement SAP system, which is nothing but a ERP system wherein you will be implementing all your enterprise related business processes into this new software system. Now, for that, the implementation partner or the SAP team who is implementing that project will first understand what are the as-is processes, which means what are the current business processes which are being executed in your organization. They will identify the delta with respect to what is available in the SAP system, and then they will come up with the to be process. It might be that you will need certain custom configuration or enhancements or developments, or else you might come up with a new process altogether which will enhance your existing business processes, thus leading you to more profit or efficiency. Now with this we will understand how a customer SAP system is formed in ASAP. Now to start with, the customer will get a SAP vanilla system. Now we already understood what is a vanilla system in our previous video. It is SAP system without any custom configuration or any enhancements. Therefore, it is called as a vanilla SAP system. To add, you might have industry specific or domain specific requirements. On top of that, as we discussed, so there are certain industries like auto industry, might be manufacturing industry, or semiconductor industry or FMCG industry, which might have their own industry specific business processes, which also needs to be implemented. And in addition to that, you might have certain custom requirements which are specific to your customer's organization. You might have to implement those. Now, all this together forms the customer SAP system. Now, with this in mind, let us proceed ahead to the next topic, which is obviously the cost. Now, when you are implementing these industry-specific solutions on top of this vanilla system, you will encounter cost. And this cost is mainly contributed because you will need experts to implement these industry-specific solutions. Many a times, there are many customers who hire top consulting firms or big fives to do this blueprint phase because they have industry specific experts who have worked in this SAP implementation projects for multiple years and know the SAP system as well as the industry specific solutions in detail. And then later on they will give the implementation or the realization part to a low cost offshore implementation partner. And if these things are not done in first place, it results into a lot of technical debt. Let's say if a customer hires a low cost implementation partner, and if they are not able to identify the industry specific processes, or they do not have the expertise which is needed because you are running the show on low cost model, you might lose out on more important requirements. And as we saw how the cumulative yield and technical debt impacts the final product to the customer, if these things are not addressed in the very first phase, it leads to a significantly low cumulative yield or very high technical debt. Now, this is how the customer system is formed in case of Activate. SAP identified these drawbacks in their original ASAP methodology, and now they have come up with SAP system, which comes up with all the best practices. Instead of the vanilla system, they give all the best practices implemented on the system, and customer has to identify which all best practices are needed for their organization, and either remove certain best practices which are not needed for their organization, and or add new custom requirements on top of it if needed. So we do not need industry experts or domain experts if we are using the best practices, because whatever are the best practices or industry solutions, they have already identified by the SAP significant chunk of it, and they are already available in your system. And this is the vice versa approach which they have used in case of Activate. Now, again, as we said, SAP also provides free templates for worksheets for requirement collection, which were not available earlier. And this also reduces a lot of technical debt, because you don't need experts to understand the SAP standard functionality. These the requirement checklist or the requirement gathering templates have been given by SAP, and you have to reuse it, and thus it reduces a lot of technical debt. Now let us compare further in detail. Now in case of ASAP, the fit gap analysis was done on a vanilla system with project specific templates. Because it was on vanilla system, you might lose or miss out on certain industry specific solutions if you do not have the expertise. Again, if you are using project specific templates for requirement gathering, you might again lose out on certain SAP standard functionalities which your team members might not be aware, and you will generate technical debt or less cumulative yield. In case of Activate, the fit gap analysis is done with respect to the best practices, and they also use SAP standard worksheets for requirement collection. Now, these SAP standard requirement collection worksheets, they cover all the requirements or functionalities or function points which are provided by SAP, thus ensuring less requirement slippage or less technical debt. Now, the success ratio in case of ASAP is directly proportional to the expertise of the team members implementing the the SAP solution in case of ASAP, whereas in case of Activate, it is directly proportional to the usage of these best practices and the SAP standard worksheets or templates. Hence, we can conclude that SAP has moved from more on of a person-oriented approach to more process-oriented, template-oriented, or best practices approach. And this guarantees execution at a lower cost, which means you can hire low-cost resources, reasonably low-cost resources, and make use of the best practices and templates and other things, and achieve the same output with low cost resources, and also ensure the quality of the output. Now, the next point which we will be looking into is the final list of custom RICEW developments is prepared in case of Blueprint, whereas in case of Activate, you have also a workshop B, wherein you come up with the list of custom configuration and identify and prioritize your backlog. Now, what used to happen, because the customer was not aware of many functionalities in case of ASAP in the beginning of the blueprint phase, they used to miss out on a lot of requirements. And as and how you go ahead into the realization phase, the customer used to understand these functionalities more in detail, and they used to come up with their own list later on during the project. Now let's assume in case of ASAP, you have already committed 100 RICEFW requirements. And once you have proceeded ahead in your realization phase, the customer explores the products and then comes up with another 25 or 30 requirements, which is directly 30% more extra work. Now, this used to add a burden on the or additional efforts and cost to the implementation partner. So, implementation partner used to come up with a clause in their contract or SOW that they will entertain only certain percentage of CRs, which was beneficial to the implementation partner. At the same time, it used to hamper the customers, full potential, customers' ability to leverage the full potential of what all functionalities which SAP used to would have delivered it to them, and it used to come at additional cost later on to the customer. Now, in case of agile methodology, you do not have the concept of CRs. You come up with new user stories and then you add it into your product backlog, and you prioritize it and then take it up accordingly. Now, this doesn't mean that you come up with any number of random requirements. Obviously, there are checks and you have these quality gates, and you do scope the requirements at one point of time as far as activate is also considered. Now, the next point is in case of ASAP, there used to be only one single technical lead who used to be involved in the fit gap analysis. If the team was larger, you might have multiple technical leads per module, etc., to finalize the requirements. And all the other technical team members used to get onboarded quite later on in the project once the realization phase had started. Now, in case of Activate, SAP recommends that you onboard all your technical team members in the workshop B so that they get involved in the fine-tuning and prioritization of this product backlog, and they understand the nitty-gritties and dependencies of these developments, and accordingly the product backlog can be fine-tuned and prioritized, and this ensures better quality of the product backlog. Now, this is what is recommended by SAP, but not all implementation partners go ahead with this approach. That is what I have seen, but this is what is the standard approach which SAP Activate recommends. Now, let us understand with respect to data migration. Now, in case of ASAP, there were SAP standard data migration programs which were available. I myself know that from release 4.0b, there were SAP standard data migration programs which were available for typical SAP standard master data and transactional data. However, they were used very less because the documentation of how to use these programs was not user friendly, and as a result of it, the project team used to come up with a huge number of customized data migration requirements, and that used to form a major chunk of your RICEFW list, and this was unwanted technical debt. Even though you had SAP standard programs which were available for data migration, they were not used, and you created your own data migration programs and added to your technical efforts, and thus increased your technical debt and the cost of the project. Now, in case of Activate, what happens is that the SAP standard data migration programs are available, and SAP has provided various tools and accelerators to increase the usage of these data migration programs. This ensures increase in the reusage of the SAP standard data migration programs which are already available, and thus reduces the technical debt. Now, in case of ASAP, the custom config and RICEFW list was the final list, and it can have CRs added in it, obviously certain percentage of CRs. Whereas in case of Activate, you have three types of sprints which are available. The first one is the foundation sprint, which will be followed by various releases and sprints within that, and then at the end you will have a firm-up sprint. So now those who are watching this video and are from a traditional agile background, you should understand that this is not a normal product wherein you get a product feature on which you are working. You will have release related to that product feature and various sprints in that. And once that product feature is developed, you will push it into production. You need to understand that this is a SAP or a ERP system, and it maps the entire enterprise or organization's processes into that product SAP system. So to start up with, there are certain base configuration which is needed to make the system up and running. For that, you will have the foundation sprint, and after that you will have various releases and sprints which will comprise of the various developments or configuration which is required to adapt the SAP substandard system to the customer's requirements. And at the end, because you will have multiple teams, let's say there are multiple modules like module, SD module, or FI module, they are working in different releases, and at the end you will need a firm up sprint to check whether all the organizational processes which are across departments or across modules are working end to end. For that, you will need a firm up sprint. Now, in case of ASAP, the list of these developments was not prioritized in most of the projects, and there were no monthly checkups for slippage in schedule and efforts, and then ultimately cost. Whereas in case of Activate, you may implement the Agile methodology and the processes which are relevant to Agile. Now let us understand how the team structure and the agile releases and sprints can be implemented in SAP Activate. This is one of the possible ways. Now you need to understand that there are various teams within the SAP implementation project. You might have a SD, sales and distribution team. You might have a material management, or procurement team. Then you might have a finance team. You might have a HR team. And so on. So what ideal structure, proposed structure for the Activate project is that you have separate teams or modules, and within that module you will have module specific releases. Let's say you will have SD release 1, and within that you have multiple sprints. Then you might have SD release 2, and so on. Similarly, in case of or materials management, you will have release 1, release 2, and so on. Then in case of FI, you might have FI release 1, FI release 2, etc. So these teams will work as individual agile teams, and at the end, once all the their requirements are completed, they will come together and do the end-to-end testing. Now, in case of ASAP, the integration test starts once all the developments are completed. And in case of Activate, what happens is that because you have these various teams as per the various modules of SAP, you will need a firm up sprint, wherein you will perform string test in this firm up sprint to ensure all the processes are working together. And that is what is a distinguishing factor between ASAP realization and Activate realization phase. So that's it from my side. Thank you, and keep on watching my videos. Bye.